It's on?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, my darling Fumi Nation. How are you? How are we? My name is Fumidesaluvold. For those of you that are stopping by for the very first time, you are so very welcome indeed. I have had a crazy couple of days. I've been running around in my own private life, and I've been taking care of business, which is actually part of your lives somewhere in the future. Anyway, the morning or the eve of when I had to travel, Jamie put out a response video to Nikki's response video to his first video, and I got over 700 messages, close to 8 as a matter of fact. And so I was forced to leave a message on YouTube here stories to say, guys, I'm at the airport. Hello, my darling Fumi Nation. How are you? How are we? I am fully aware that Jamie has responded to Nikki's allegations. I am at the airport. I have a life. I will respond to his response in due time. But I have other obligations, my darlings. I have a brand deal, as you very well know. I have, no, not a brand deal, a brand. So I have to go to the manufacturers. I have stuff that I gotta do. And I will be back around this weekend, and I will get to it, okay? I have received over 700 messages. And that is why I don't take sides. I am team children, and that's where I stand. And I'm very grateful that I had the opportunity, because it gave me time to really take everything in. Let me start saying a couple of things. It will always be about the children for me. I feel so sorry for these two beautiful baby girls, not much older than Adrian. And this has been going on for the past 4 years, because Jamie brought all of this alive after 4 years. Jamie, I am sorry. I'm big enough to call it. I am so sorry. It broke my heart. It broke my heart. And I believe you. I believe that you are a victim of domestic violence. I also believe, where I questioned myself and said, why didn't he go to the police? And we'll get to that further down. Why didn't he tell anybody? I believe the answers that you would have said. I believe that you would have said, nobody will believe me. I believe you. I sincerely believe you. I'm in a mixed marriage and I have a child. And I can imagine if Ola had come out and said he's a victim of domestic violence, or I'm a victim of domestic violence. This is a couple that we've been watching for years. We see him in the background, as you just did, and it's hard to swallow. I can understand that, and I believe you. And that day, when Nikki was at your house, the other black person there, who was she? And why was she so calm? Now perhaps it's a situation where it wasn't Jamie, attacking Nikki. It was Nikki attacking Jamie. And so she just stood there. Because I wanted to know, why didn't she say anything? Why wasn't she irate? Why was she still in the house? Why didn't she follow Nikki upstairs? We will never know the truth, because we were not there. Jamie, you brought this to us. You brought this to your 1.7 million fans, and then the other 1 million that watch that are not subscribed to you. Because I have 600,000 followers. I have over 3 million views a month. I can imagine what yours is. What were we supposed to do with the information? Let me speak for myself. What was I supposed to do with it? Because I do a lot of relationship related situations, because I married later in life, because I also had relationships that went awry. So I come from my experience. So when you said after 4 years that this is what happened between me and Nikki and myself, what were we supposed to do with it? For me, I said, well, you know what? Jamie, this is what you've done wrong, what right? Nikki, this is what you've done wrong, done right. But let's push that aside. It doesn't matter right or wrong, because you're doing it right in front of us. It's a tic-tac-toe. You say this, I'll do this. You do that, I'll do that. Nobody wins. Nobody is won. I'm sorry that you went through that, and I wish you went to the police. Me personally, somebody is beating up on me, because I tell you this, those that we love that hurt us, we don't stop loving them. We stop loving ourselves. If I have a child, and this has been going on for years, I would have taken this to court, because we are not your judge and jury. Because when push comes to shove, it's entertainment for a lot of people. Not me. No. This, for me, is not a matter of, let me report it, go back to my life. I do think about all of you guys. And I go back in my head and I say to myself, where did it go wrong so badly for them? Because I genuinely want you to be happy. But if I feel that you're doing something wrong, I will say it. And Jimmy, here's the issue. Because it was important for me to say that I believe you and that I'm sorry. When you first came out with the video, of which I still feel it was a wrong call, but you know what? That's water under the bridge. The messages were all mixed. You talked about why you and Nikki had broken up, which is more than understandable. But we also, or I detected that you were very, very particular about you being an Uber driver now. You were not making the money. You still had a house that you couldn't barely afford, and that you were only able to film with the children once a week, this, that, and the other, because it was a family channel. Just support me. It came off as if we scrape everything, he was only coming now because he had kind of hit rock bottom. In the 4 years, nothing had picked up. And so this looked like your last ditch effort. And as a matter of fact, this is what she did. She didn't allow me. That's how it comes off. You didn't say it. That I'm not allowed to film with the children. I'm only allowed once a week. And you know, the monies, and that's how we lived and whatever. Jamie, for you and for everybody watching this episode, divorce is horrible. Divorce is no joke. It's a traumatic experience. Divorce is a nightmare. I have sat here front row and center, and I've seen it destroy my friends. Everything. It's worse than a fire, because you cannot build back on that. The children grow in the back and forth. Ava, as you can see, is 4 years. It's 4 years ago that you can't get back. That you are fighting over international trips. Okay, if I can't go, you can't go. Okay, then you go. The point being is that you couldn't bring yourselves together to sacrifice for these children. And I've said it before, because divorce can be so toxic. It's like a parasite. It kills everything. It even blinds you to the fact that these children are here. If this is how you are feeling, Jamie, Nikki, if this is how you are feeling, what about Ava and Zoe? What about those two girls? What about when they go to bed at night? What about when they go to school? How is their academic year going? How are they making friends? Are they hitting all of their milestones? Are they shy? Are they introverted? Because you are adults, they are not. This is why, Jamie, it was kind of front and back, back and front. On top of which, you had neighbors who had said you were always quarreling, that you went to the extent of, after her brother had committed suicide, you went there to film the aftermath. They pleaded for you to take the video down, of which you only did recently. Your friends are not talking to you, they're talking to her. There is so much bad blood. Two of you are to blame. From what I have seen this back and forth, the two of you have not reached that maturity to say, okay, let me take accountability. Let me be the bigger person now, and let me sweep this to the side and try my best to raise children. Jamie, you're not the only one that's a single father. And you had such great fortune as to be the genius that you are when it comes to editing and being a videographer and being a YouTuber. But you were a YouTuber with a family channel. And it has brought light to me and a lot of whispers now. Family channels for me, I just look at them as really, really fraudulent. It's not the way that it is, because you guys made it so picture perfect. You gave up your life with Nikki, whether you were forced or voluntarily. But the goose that laid the golden egg was Nikki. And so that went with all of the funding, the finance, the lifestyle, the house, because to rely on another person for your welfare is dangerous. It's dangerous. Because that family setup will grow up and out, or it will break apart, of which you did the latter. It was gone. You sold your viewers a dream. Until you came back 4 years after and showed us the reality of a nightmare, to which your viewers sat back and said, a lot of them, I read the comments, thank the Lord I'm not married. You know what? I'll just stay on my own. Oh wow, I'm shocked. You smashed that glass ceiling. For whatever reason, I don't know. You came back and you told us this, and it shifted. That is the influence. You shifted this for interracial marriages, for family channels, for marriages, and you let us know front row and center. You reminded us what divorce looks like. I don't think that was your intent, but that also came with the package deal, of which now we sat down in this group chat, of which we did not want to be invited to. What am I supposed to do with this? And you are right. You are so very right to speak up. But where there's authority, you take the children and you go. If that's what Nikki did, absolutely. Absolutely. It's not tolerated nowhere. Nowhere. I can only imagine what was happening behind the scenes of 4 years, of which you only just filmed that skit. What about the other instances? Why was this not in your deposition when you were filing for divorce? Why isn't it in the court papers? You should have, Jamie. If you knew that this was it till the end, yes sir, you should have. Take your children, you'll find a way. It is what it is. I'm a very straightforward person. I'm very black and white. There really is no in between. It either is or it is not. That's how I look at it. You should have come up in here, out here in this YouTube street, and said, you know what, I'm trying to make some coin. Yep, the family channel is no more. This is what it is, and I just need to find a way to navigate here. Never, never, ever try to put your children in front of cameras. They love it. They don't know the other side of it. We have to protect them because there is child trafficking. I did an episode of it, and I still have nightmares. Ula, from the gate. Ula, I think our first date, he said, Fumi, we're not having our kids nowhere near Hollywood. Because I was in LA still at the time. I was on Ugly Betty. We were just wrapping up. And I think around that time, we didn't even know that Ugly Betty was going to get cancelled. And he let me know. He said, it's all nice and all for you. I get it. But the children know. And I don't want to be dressing them up. I want them to be ordinary kids. I will never forget that conversation. And that was 8 years before Adrian was born. And I kind of co-signed with it. If she did not want the children to be filmed, take it out. But that left you in a situation where, how are you going to make your money? Because this was how you made your money. I get it. But you're going to have to do it a different way now, because the family is gone. How am I going to have a family channel without the family members? And Nikki was queen. I'm very happy that you told me you paid those school fees. As an African, you must take care of your kids. I'm happy you paid those at least half of those school fees. Because I said a man that does not take care of a kid is not a man. For me, I'm so sorry. And your mother was there seeing Nikki hit you in the head. That's just wild to me. Let me give you some advice. My baby brother, let me give you some advice. Let the house go and start to look for a job. You don't need to do Uber. There are men that are out there that have jobs and they still see their children. You might not be able to pick them up every single day, but they will see you often enough and they will know what you're working at and working with. You're a good enough editor to find a job. It might take some time, but I want you to know the Uber gotta stop. For you there, you're starting driving back and forth. It's not good for you. It's not good for your mind. You don't need that. You need stability. You need stability, and you need to have counselor for yourself and Nikki and the children, plus therapy, because all of you are wounded and all of you have to start from scratch. And if nobody's going to advise you, that's the humble advice I can give you. Nikki, I'm so disappointed. I'm just disappointed. It's a straight up lie. Straight up lie. It's not about twisting the story. It's about lies. It's about lies that he did not pay the school fees. When not only was he paying half, he was paying more than half because he was paying the extracurricular activities. It's also not right for you to go running around talking about he didn't give you footage of your sister, of your birth, of this, that, and the other. He couldn't find puppets of it. He gave you what he had. You wanted raw footage. You have to be clear, because he had the videos there. Take the videos you didn't. You wanted the raw footage. I told you in the first episode, let me tell you, baby sister, what you don't have, you don't need. You can ride with what you got. Because it's petty, because two of you are back and forth and you're screaming. It's so uncontrolled. If that was a snippet of what we saw, I can only imagine what is behind the scenes when you're completely unhinged and the girls are there. Why?
I'm not dropping no damn kids at no police station.
You have to. You have to. You actually have to.
That just proves you don't care about these kids.
No, it proves I do, because I'm protecting their safety. I'm the one protecting their safety.
At the thought of a police last time. Did you not hear her last time?
I'm protecting the children from their safety. You've been violent. You've hit me in front of them. You've abused me in front of them.
That does not make them violent people. Let me remind you right now who you are. You are not shit. You ain't never been shit from day one. You will never be shit, you motherfucker. Try me. Fucking keep trying me.
I'm not trying you. I'm trying to be fair, and I'm trying to protect my safety and the kids' safety.
I will expose your ass. I swear to God I will. Keep fucking trying me, Jamie. I swear to God. No. I've had enough of this motherfucking shit. At the police station.
I think the only person who can be exposed is you. You're the cheater. You're the violent person. But I'm not doing that because I don't want my kids to have to see the real you on the internet.
Out of the house, Nikki. Please leave. Please leave. Please leave the house, Nikki. Please leave the house.
Look at you.
Please leave the house. Please leave the house. This is violence. You've got the kids in your hands. Leave the house right now.
This is exactly what he wanted.
Leave the house right now.
This is exactly what
Leave
he
the
wanted.
house.
And look, he's getting video.
Leave the
evidence.
house.
This, he's been planning this.
Leave the house.
He's been planning
Leave the
this
house.
from day one.
Leave the house. Leave the house. The children don't deserve to see this.
I think you need to take responsibility.
Okay, yeah. All right.
Leave the house.
You guys will never see my kids again.
That is
You guys will never see my kids again.
that will not.
Ever.
That will not happen. Leave the house.
Look at you guys.
Leave the house.
Look at you guys. That's
Leave the
hilarious.
house.
Look,
Leave the house.
Whatever.
Leave the house, Nikki. Leave the
This is
house.
exactly what you wanted, Jamie.
Leave the
This is
house.
exactly what you wanted. You're actually
Leave the house.
exactly what you wanted.
And this is what I've been putting up with for years. Violence. All of this. And the kids have to see it. That's the sad thing. And never taking responsibility for any of her actions. Caught out trying to cheat on me, and then she acts like this. Instead of saying sorry, instead of trying to make it right. I'm sorry, Mom. You okay?
No, I'm not. Okay.
Where's your phone? I'm actually calling the police.
No, just leave it for now.
Take another email. You get all of your clients. This time, I took the time to read all of the texts. It cannot be edited. After all, Jamie is not a magician, because you responded and it was coherent. You could see that he said one thing, you said the other. And you were angry. I read it. You were volatile. You were impolite. And you want your way. Why don't you think of your children? If you are telling him that no, we don't want them filled because of the trauma, do you think that the way that you have been behaving is not traumatic? You go to his house, they tell you, you gotta wait 2 weeks. Wait 2 weeks. Abide by that. Where do you have the right to raise your hand on him multiple times in the head? Are you mad? In front of the mother, then you're talking about the mother. Well, you know, she said you have to take accountability. You goddamn right, couldn't have been me, because you'd have had about 20 on your head. That's my son. You could never do it to my child. Why? Why would you behave like that? And now it's out in the open. And you are ambassador for Fenty. I know you do remember that Rihanna and Chris Brown had their own domestic violence situation. You have girls. Everybody's included in this mess. His family, your family, his friends, her friends, all of this. And what are we supposed to do with the information now? What are you supposed to do? Auntie Fumi, you know, this is what he did. He said this, and so you know this. Okay, guess what? You're both wrong. Because not one of you could curtail any kind of control, put a full stop to it, and say, all right, Nikki, you're not going to hear from me anymore, because it seems as if we cannot communicate. I'm going to let our lawyer step in here and communicate with you. Perhaps that's what we have to do. If we are so bent on ruining ourselves, and whatever savings or money that we have, which should actually go to the children, we are going to just put it in court and just bleed ourselves dry, then so be it. But time will pass and you will see how self-destructive the two of you were. And you are also selfish. You are selfish to your children, because they should always come first. There's no point. Until now, I really don't know why you had the divorce. What was the divorce? And Jamie, while you're back there, I don't believe that Nikki cheated. How about that? I don't believe it. I don't think that she did. You said it a couple of times. She nearly cheated on you. She nearly this, she nearly that. Don't you know ex-boyfriends are crazy? Don't you know that ex-boyfriends don't like being ex-boyfriends when they see somebody else? My ex-boyfriend came out of the woodwork talking hot mess. Yes, on Facebook. I checked him. It was only upon reflection I remembered, oh shoot, Ula is also the administrator. Not that I was hiding it from him, but I necessarily didn't want Ula to know that, yes, you understand me, I dated the guy and that the guy was even talking to me. But it was out there. Ula, do you remember?
Oh yeah, I guess so. It didn't face me.
What?
It didn't face me.
It's a hot mess. But you are divorced now, and you've been divorced for 4 years. And Nikki, I am sure you're getting on with your own life. I don't want you to respond. It's not for me to say they're here, there, or anywhere, but I don't need for you to respond anymore, because the two of you, as far as I'm concerned, you have doctored this to where it favors you. It looks great from your perspective, and you are the victim. You are both the antagonists and you are both victims. But what I will say, point blank, period, Domestic violence is never acceptable. And Nikki, I wish he had put it in the court papers and the documents to teach you a good lesson, and anybody else who has any funny ideas, because it is true. Men do suffer that, and nobody believes them. It's so miraculous. You say, no, you should not, could not, and had no right. And on that alone, you should be on shaky ground. Because I cannot believe that Jimmy is telling lies about this. I just don't believe it. Why would you? Why would you? And your children have to see all of this. It's going to take a lot of healing for you all. It's going to take a lot of healing, a lot of patience. You're going to really have to take accountability. It is not so much that you apologize to each other, but it's more so to say, I was wrong and I did this. And you have to accept it, because that is when you are going to feel remorse. Remorseful. Are you remorseful? No, you are not. Not even you, Jamie. You're not remorseful. Don't get me wrong. You've been wronged. But from the conversations, it's taking two. And if you did not have those beautiful girls, I don't think I would really care per se. I would say, you know what, let the courts handle it. Jimmy, you waited for 4 years. For 4 years. Why 4 years? Why did you wait this long? Why? Why did you wait this long to say and justified to tell your story? That was what it looked like. That you had trickled down this slippery slope of really, unfortunate circumstances, to which now you had landed yourself as an Uber driver, and as a last ditch effort, you're trying to blow oxygen into this YouTube channel. But don't you know that, Jimmy, it's not the channel that has the life, it is you. It is you. It is for you to believe in yourself again. And Nikki, it is for you to understand that no matter where you go, you're the mother of these children. And so guess what? Her name is yours, and you've tainted it. You've tainted it, because it will follow up with, we remember that video of you and your mom. You're closing doors on these girls. Because you don't want to see straight, because you don't want to be humble, because you don't want to take accountability. That's what this is. To be a mother is an honor. There are mothers that don't have their children yet. You have 2 beautiful, gorgeous children. They're not blind, they're not handicapped, they're perfect. And you treated them this way? They did not ask to be here. You brought them here. And this is how you treat them. Shame on the 2 of you. On the 2 of you. Don't forget to like, to subscribe, hit the notification button, my darlings. And you just let me know in the comments. Because I'm really tired of this. It's so sad to be fighting over channels, to be fighting over emails, to be fighting over monies, to be talking about this. These were 2 people that loved each other once upon a time. And that's why I say, some things are just too young. You can't handle it, because to be married, to wear those big girl panties, it's a responsibility, because it's step and repeat. And it's not for the good times. It's for the bad times. You show up. You show up even when you are mad at him. You show up even when you are mad at her. You show up because you know what? That's the responsibility you took. And it's no longer about you when you have children. That is the big panty avenue. And not many of you can do it in these streets. These young children, absolutely not. You got to put some respect on it. Put some respect on yourselves. Respect yourselves. If you cannot be husband and wife, I said it in the other episode, be mom and dad. Be mom and dad. And don't be selfish. Don't let your parents worry over you. That's selfish. That's selfish.
This will be the last time I ever speak on this subject. Regardless of what happens next, what's said next, I will be remaining silent from here on. but I felt like I needed to clear a few things up and respond to Nikkie's allegations against me and a lot of the lies that she told. For one, the reason that I took the video down wasn't because I felt like people didn't believe me. At the point where I turned the comments off, the comments about her were horrible. And I felt like a hypocrite because I had asked people not to harass her, and that was exactly what was happening. So I turned the comments off. Obviously, that didn't make a difference, and it became a little bit overwhelming. It went viral, and I decided to take the video down. And ever since, I've been off the internet. I haven't even been checking the comments. Friends have been telling me what's been going on, but I've just stayed offline ever since. I've decided to respond to some of Nikkie's allegations and to also put the video back up, because everything that I said in that video is true and can be fact-checked. I only spoke about things that I have receipts for. I knew people wouldn't believe me. And unfortunately, this is why most men who've been through some of the stuff that I've gone through never speak out, because they're scared people won't believe them. And if they don't have evidence, people don't believe them. If they have evidence, people question, well, what did you do first? How were you at fault? What did you do to cause the reaction that you got? And that's pretty much what people have been saying. Nikki told a lot of lies, and a lot of the lies that she told were lies that she knows I have the receipts to back up and show that they're lies, which is the most confusing part of it all. Like, for example, she said that if that intervention order had have gone through, that she wouldn't be able to come within 200 meters of the children. And this is entirely untrue. As you can see, this is from the intervention order, and it speaks about children. And I'm going to read it because I want to get the wording correct. It says, this order allows you to communicate about your children or spend time with the children. You can only do this in a way that is currently allowed by a current, and it has a few different options, but ours would be B, parenting agreement. At this point in time, we had a temporary parenting agreement that her lawyer had written up and I had agreed to under protest. And this was the one that had me as an every second weekend dad. The reason that I had agreed to this was because I had been advised if I didn't agree to this, then I may not be able to see the children at all until I sorted everything out. So I decided it was better than nothing. So had this intervention order gone through, the parenting agreement would have stayed in place. I still would have been an every second weekend dad, and she would have continued seeing the children as often as she already was. The only caveat was that if they were to witness family violence, that there would be consequences, legal consequences. And I wanted the children protected and sheltered from witnessing family violence. And that's why they were on the order. Nikki did come to court. She made a counter intervention order against me. To this day, I have no idea what she wrote on it. It was suggested that we just sign an undertaking, which is one step below an intervention order. And I wasn't putting the intervention order in place to hurt her. I was putting the intervention order in place to protect myself and the kids. So it made sense for me to just sign this and have her sign it as well. Nikki flat out said she has never hit me during an altercation. If that's true, why would she be apologizing for hitting me? And this was just one of the many occasions that I went through something like this. The Disneyland experience. Nikki said I didn't want them to go, but I offered to come so the girls didn't miss out on the experience. But he knew if I was there, I wouldn't like him filming them so much, so he made co-parenting the issue. This is entirely untrue. The only conversation we had about this was via text, and the closest thing she said to wanting to come was a comment about it being petty that I didn't invite her. I've explained in the previous video why we couldn't go on an overseas trip together and why I wouldn't have invited her. And if the whole filming thing was the issue, then I wouldn't have offered her the trip when she wouldn't allow us to go. The reason I offered her the trip is because My kids are much more important to me than anything else, and I didn't want them to miss out on this. Dad group situation, Nikki said that we'd only ever been there once. That's not true. Nikki said I've been exploiting the kids. There's no truth in that. Yes, my job over the years has been YouTube. It's how I provided for my family, both when I was married and after my marriage. And when I was married, Nikki never had an issue with the kids being in the vlogs. It's something that came up after we broke up. If you've ever watched my vlogs, you would know how much my kids love being in the videos. Over the years, we've got to have so many amazing experiences because of YouTube. We've got to do things that we wouldn't have otherwise got to do. Either we wouldn't have been able to afford them, or they've just been once in a lifetime type opportunities that we've been very blessed to have. We have a lot of fun making our videos. If you know me, I'm a big kid, and the happiest I ever am is when I'm doing fun stuff with my kids. Over the years, I have checked in with the kids and asked them time and time again, is this what they want to do? And they always say yes. I've always had the attitude that if it gets to the point where it's not fun anymore, that's when it ends. Or if the kids ever say that they don't want to do it anymore, that's when it ends. And they're at an age where they will tell me, hey dad, make sure you edit that bit of the video out. Or hey dad, make sure you keep that part in the video. And they will check to make sure that I keep the bits that they like in the video in there. They love watching the videos back. They love bragging to people about the fact that we are YouTubers. So us not being able to make videos anymore, it hasn't just been hard on me, it's been hard on them too. And the money that I've made over the years from YouTube has gone towards providing for them, towards keeping a roof over their head, towards their education, and sadly towards legal fees that I have had to spend money on to remain a real father in their life. YouTube has allowed me to be a stay-at-home, work-from-home dad, and while going through this whole battle to be a 50-50 dad, something that was used against me was the fact that I used to work a lot. So I've had to have a job where I can show and prove that I can be a dad who can make all the school runs, pick them up, drop them off to school, and be able to take them to activities and everything that I need to do as a dad. And YouTube allowed me to do that. And that's also why I started driving Uber, because it was a job that allowed me to still do that. And I still live with this fear that I could potentially lose my ability to be a 50-50 dad. And that's why it's been so important to me to have a job where I can remain fully present in their lives. The situation with her booking a dental appointment on my 40th birthday during the time that she thought I was going to have the kids, as you can see, she texted me 20 minutes after making that appointment. And it wasn't a dental emergency like she said. She said at this point that Zoe hadn't really been complaining of any pain and that the kids were due for checkups. So we did end up getting an infected tooth, but this was after the fact. Neither of us knew anything about that at this point in time.
I'm a great dad, Nikki, and I feel
No,
like...
but you feel like I'm like punishing you for some reason by having the kids go to school. And that's what, like, I can't wrap my head around.
It's not even
I think that's a punishment.
Well, if
Like,
that was
they
the case,
really
why
have
would
to
you
go to
keep
school.
me from even knowing where Ava goes to kinder? Like, do you know how hard it was?
That's for my own safety. I don't trust you 100%. Like, let's be real. Let's
Over
be
the
100%
years, the
honest
only
about
person
that.
who's ever been violent is you. Like, there's no
Yeah, well,
reason
I'm
for
just
you
saying.
to not trust me. Like, what have I ever
Because
done?
you have a whole lot more to lose than me, yeah? Like, I have a whole lot more to lose than you, is what I'm saying.
there's
Like,
nothing...
you don't have family, you don't have friends, like, you're kind of depressed right now, whatever. You know, you don't have your kids, like, you can act up.
Comments that Nikki made about depression and me essentially having nothing left to lose, or her having a lot more to lose than me. Nikki said before he pressed record, he was calling me crazy and said I needed psychiatric help, and he was threatening to take full custody of our kids. None of this was true. I've never threatened to take full custody of the kids, and none of this happened. I have the full conversation, and before this, I'd been asking her how we could get to the point where we could co-parent And I'd also been talking to her about a person that the kids had been left alone around that I wasn't entirely comfortable with. And that's what was happening before this. I don't want to share that recording because I don't want to put another person's business out there. She said that I took the YouTube channel. So the night that I found out everything about her and her ex-boyfriend, I was in an emotional state and I changed the password. We ended up discussing it at a later point and we agreed that I would maintain the main channel because that had always been my channel. I had started it years before and I had been the one who had done the majority of the work on it. And I explained this in the previous video, so I won't get into that again. And she would get the Jamie and Nick's Instagram account with 1 million followers, which was always essentially hers, even though I created it in the beginning. And she would keep her own personal channel, which she now has. There was also an agreement that we would split the revenue from the old videos 50-50, which I would have always honored. I just never got the contract. I had been asking her for the contract and it just never came. And at this point in time, our divorce was pretty messy and I didn't feel comfortable giving her money without a contract. In the end, she demanded I take down all the old videos so that my channel would have a crutch, and I did that. I was trying to avoid the drama. In the months that the old videos stayed up, the revenue that was made from those ended up going towards joint bills of ours that she was refusing to put money towards. Nikki said that I changed the password to our business email account so that she could no longer access brand deals. She's entirely twisting the truth here and she knows that I have these receipts. This is what happened on the day that I posted my first YouTube video back. She changed the password to our business account and it backfired on her. And I tried everything I possibly could to find a fair way that we could both share that email. I asked her to sign a contract saying that she wouldn't change it again, that she wouldn't alter any emails addressed to me, that I also wouldn't do the same. She refused. And for years onward, I would forward every email that was sent to that account to her, and I was still open to sharing that account with her, providing I had a legal contract that protected us both. Over the years, I'd been the one who had managed this email account and a lot of the contacts in there, but I wanted to share it with her. Nikki said that my mum testified against her in court. My mum has never testified against Nikki in court, nor has she lied about her. Nikki said I kept dragging her through the court system. This wasn't true. I tried everything I possibly could to avoid going through the courts and resolving things outside of court. Nikki was a no-show for 2 mediations. And if you've been through the mediation process, you know how dragged out that whole thing is. And we had to go through this twice. Then Nikki eventually was the one to file the court proceedings. When we went through the court system by 2021, we had reached an agreement that had me having the kids 50% of the time and that we would split what was left of our finances 50-50. Earlier on, I had split what finances we had 50-50. Nikki wanted more. After we came to this agreement, there was some things that we needed to do for the court that Nikki continued delaying doing, which meant we went to multiple court dates where nothing happened and more money was spent. And I spent probably 3 times what I should have spent by 2021 when we had reached that agreement. Now let's talk about school. Nikki said that she has been left with all the kids' school expenses. This isn't true. I pay 50% of the kids' school fees, as you can see. This is my receipt. I actually pay a little bit more than 50% because I pay for extracurricular activities in full. There was only one time where I ever, I guess you could say, dragged Nikki back to court. So Nikki had originally wanted to enroll Ava into a specific private school from the start of school, and she had told me about this school and it sounded great, but I really wanted to be involved in the decision-making process and told her that I would go and do my research and let her know what I thought. I went, I did my research, the school sounded great, and I told her let's do it. Let's try get her in there. At this point in time, she had changed her mind and she enrolled her in another school without my consent. She had, however, made an agreement with me that if I could get a spot for our kids in the school we originally liked, that they could go there. And there was an agreement in place that if we ever could get them in, they could go there. And over the years, she tried to sabotage them getting in by not going to open days with me or not responding to correspondence from the school. And somehow, miraculously, I managed to get them in. At that point, she refused to co-sign the enrollment papers for this school. She didn't want them in a school that she had to pay part of the fees for. And I ended up having to take her to court, which was a long and expensive process, to enact court orders to have her sign papers. And you have to remember, she had already made an agreement. She was going to do this. She was just refusing to do it. And she had refused to follow a lot of court orders over the years, but this was the one that I felt like I had to put my foot down on because it was around the kids' education and I wanted them to have the best possible education that they could have. Nikki said in 2020, I tried getting back together with her because my views were low. I think anybody reading that can tell how ridiculous that sounds. It is true that about a year after I left her, I had a weak moment. I was in a very broken place. I desperately missed my kids. My life had been made very difficult. And I decided to give her another chance. And I said, do you want to give this a go? She ended up saying no, and she's tried to use it against me. But I want you to think about something. If I had been so desperate for views from some kind of love story, wouldn't I have just rushed into another public relationship? The last thing I'm going to talk about is the video of Nikki at my house and what happened. Nikki said that she had come to my house to get clothes and that I'd been calling her all sorts of names, and that's how all that happened, and what she was doing was reactive. So at this point in time, Nikki had already moved out of the house and things were pretty rocky. Our marriage counselor at the time had advised me to send her a text and say, I think we should spend 2 weeks apart, not talking about anything other than the kids, because everything was just leading to arguments. And I felt like we needed a clear head and some time apart so that we could get together and speak rationally. And I sent her this text message. She had liked it, so I assumed she had agreed to it. And the point she came to my house was 1 week after that, so we hadn't finished our 2 weeks apart. She had called my mum that morning and let her know that she was going to be dropping Zoe off at the house. Ava was already there. And I had only found out about 10 minutes before she got there. My mum had passed on the message. Now, when Nikki got to the house, I was laying on the couch. She walked in, she dropped Zoe off, and she asked me to come out the front and speak to her about some things. I said, it's only been a week. We've still got another week to go. And she said, I want to talk now. We're going to talk, get outside and talk. And I kept refusing. And she picked Ava up. She walked up the stairs. She took her up to her room because I guess she didn't want her seeing all of this. And as she was going up the stairs, she told me, if you're not outside ready to talk to me by the time I get down these stairs, I'm going to punch you in the effing head. And I wasn't budging. And she came storming back down the stairs. I was still on the couch. She got on top of me. She hit me multiple times. And my mum picked up Zoe and she took her to the kitchen and she was getting her out of that situation and was getting her some snacks to keep her calm. And at that point, Nikki went through to the other room, and that's when I picked up the phone. I was at a point in time where I was finally starting to tell some of the people in my life some of the things I had been experiencing that I hadn't told people before, and it felt like nobody believed me. So I felt like I needed some evidence. I also needed it for myself as well, For anybody who's been in a situation like this, who's had a person tell you things that happened, never happened, you would know not only the frustration you feel, but the questioning you feel of your own reality. And that's what I was going through, because she had been telling me for years things that had happened, never happened. And I needed to know that this really was happening. I needed to be able to prove it. And that's why I recorded that moment. And I was going to call the police, and I got talked out of it. I never did. She stayed at the house for another 3.5 hours. There was a lot of ranting. It was a really full-on day. Other people ended up at the house as well. And I later found out that the reason that she was so angry when she got to the house was she was dropping Zoe off, because after she dropped Zoe off, she was going to go and have a confrontation with someone who was an old friend of hers, who had been sharing some stories about her and her ex-boyfriend around the Sudanese community. And at this point in time, I hadn't heard any of these stories that had been spread around the Sudanese community. I'd found out some stuff myself, but I didn't know about any of this other stuff that was going on at this point in time. I do have a recording of this. I'm not getting other people involved. It can be verified, and that's why she was at my house that day and why she was in such a volatile mood, because she was blaming this old friend of hers for the things getting out that I guess she had for a while been worried that I was going to find out about. And that's what happened that day. There's one more thing that I wanted to address before I end this video, and that was Nikki saying that I refused to give her footage of her sister. So a couple of years after we broke up, she asked me for some specific footage of her sister. Now bear in mind, this was very, very old footage. We've had a lot of hard drives over the years. Some have been damaged, some have been lost. And I looked for that footage and could not find it, and assumed that it was long gone. Things between Nikki and I were very volatile. I didn't want to be the one to have to tell her that it was gone. So I took the coward's way out, and I just didn't respond because I didn't want to deal with the reaction. And then it was about a year later, I was going through one of my really old MacBooks. I was looking for something unrelated, and I stumbled across that footage that she'd been looking for. I also stumbled across the session file for the video I had made for her funeral. And when I opened the session file, there was quite a few bits and pieces missing, like the music and some unlinked video files and stuff. And I managed to piece that back together, and I mixed that down. And she does now have all of that footage. She doesn't know that I remade that video. The only way she would know is if she was to right click on the file, I think it's called Sarah's Smile, and she would see that it is actually a new copy. It's not the original, because I had to mix it down again for her. In terms of the vlogs, Nikki didn't ask for our vlogs until about 3 years later. She actually didn't ask for our vlogs. She said she didn't want our vlogs. She specifically wanted the raw footage of everything. 3 years later, during points where we're just going through all this mess, I didn't know why she was suddenly demanding specifically the raw footage of everything we had ever done. I didn't have all of it, but it still seemed suspicious. So that is what she's talking about there. Anyway, this is the last I'm going to speak on any of this stuff. As I said, I won't be responding to anything else. I'm done.